I know nobody likes them. So another product that I love to use that I never put in videos, or I usually don't because nobody likes them, is watercolor markers. Now I have two kind that I like. One is the Winsor & Newton Pro Marker. This one has specified pigments that you can actually look up. They'll tell you if they're light, fast, and that kind of stuff. The other one is the Tombow. I have more of these. I have a lot more of these. So these are a lot less expensive than these, and they work amazingly well. So I'm going to do two different drawings or paintings or watercolor marker-ish thing drawings. And then I'm going to show you the differences, what I like about each one. One I put in a gray book. It's the Hahnemuhle gray, so it's not real gray. It's just tones it down a little bit. And I do that with the, I believe I use the Winsor & Newton markers for those. And then I use the Tombow markers on some white paper. And I'm doing basically something that I always do, something that you're used to seeing me do. And that's what I'm working on. Before we get into that, I just want to mention, I was flipping through some art channels and I came across a channel called Woolly Watercolor Studio. Now there's going to be a link down below. She's an amazing artist. The one that I watched was the most recent one, which is this orange house. It's like bright orange house that she watercolors and puts a lot of detail in the foliage around it. And it's not a very large piece, but it's absolutely beautiful, and I love the work that she does. So how about everybody go over to Woolly Watercolor Studio for a party? You gotta BYO stuff. Let her know that Pete sent you and that you're excited to be there. All right, let's get to it. Okay, now first of all, you may be able to hear some rain. It is pouring outside. And also some thunder and lightning. You won't hear the lightning, you'll hear the thunder. But don't worry about that, it's all a part of the show. So what I wanted to mention about these is I really do enjoy using these, and one of the reasons that I enjoy using them is because you can get very finely detailed in a spot. It's very controlled. It's very different than regular watercolor. Now I know you can go ahead and use this with water and a brush and kind of blend it out a little bit. I didn't do that because this is how I use these. You can use them however you want. Some people scribble them on something and then they pick them up with a brush and use them as regular watercolor. I don't do that. I use them as markers, but their great thing is they don't go through anything. So if you're worried about markers going through your page onto the next page where you can't do anything on the second page, this is what you're looking for. Watercolor markers, they don't do it. They don't blend as good, but you can see a couple of times, like when I went over the blue crossed over the orange and it made that little bit of green. You can use some blending techniques, but I will say this, those felt tips on this one, they'll tear right through that paper because the alcohol is different. When you blend with the alcohol marker, it kind of evaporates as you're blending. This one doesn't. It just saturates the page and you're scrubbing at it. So it'll tear right through it if you want to do a lot of blending. If you just want to use some solid color or do a very little bit about blending, then it'll work just fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But I'm telling you, you just have to, everything that you have to use the way it was intended to be used. That's just how it is. That's how life is. If you don't like it, then you have to use something different. And these definitely will not blend as smoothly as alcohol markers. Now, both of these have a brush side and then like a bullet side. I tend not to use the bullet side much unless I really need the fine detail, because to be honest with you, it will just tear the crap out of the page that much more. It's just not that good for that. So it's unless you're using like a very sturdy surface or something like that. The first book that I used, that gray book, that is not 100% cotton. That is just pulp paper. Then the other one that I use is the 100% cotton Hahnemuhle book. So they're good. Believe me, the books are good. Even the pulp one holds up very well to a lot of stuff. Any kind of watercolor, it holds up pretty good to multiple layers. But it's just that these will scrub through if you really make them go over and over in the same thing. If you really want to layer, put down one layer and let it dry completely. Leave it alone for a while. then go back in with another color. It'll reactivate. And I do that here. You'll see me put down a solid color, I'll wait a minute, let it dry, and then I'll put another color over it and it blends. And I have noticed this too. Sometimes the watercolor markers don't reactivate like a couple of days later. Sometimes once they're like permanently dry, they're permanently dry. But most of the time, and I don't understand that because they are watercolor markers, but sometimes, or at least every time that I've tried to do it, I haven't left it that long, and it's done just fine for me. I'm stumbling over every word tonight. I can't really get anything out of my mouth, and that's a problem because I have a while to talk. So just bear with me, and I'll get there. Don't worry about that. So as you can see, I don't mind it. They are a little streaky. I don't mind that. You may mind that. You might need the smoothness of the alcohol marker, but if you don't, these are a good option. So these are also good if you just need to, let's say you don't want to bring all your watercolor stuff with you. You don't want to bring your palette. You don't want to bring water brush. You don't want to bring, or a regular brush with water pots. You don't want to do any of that. That's fine. You can use these to add a little bit of color to whatever drawing you're doing. I'm going the reverse again. That's what I do. I go the reverse. Most of these are very transparent. You can put down the line first and then put the marker over it. They will work just fine. But the way that I use them is I like to put down the color first and then go into the ink work and make something of the color. So I do that differently than a lot of other people. Other people would go ahead and put their line work in and draw a nice picture, all wonderful, and then they go ahead and use this to add the color later, and they just add a little bit of color with it, which is why sometimes people also use a water brush with it. They'll put down a little line of color and then just kind of spread it around or something like that. But that's not what I did. This is how I use them. I don't do a lot of that. I don't do a lot of line work where then I go back in and do color. Now I say that. I mean in my abstract stuff. When I do my standard, like my line and wash houses and barns and landscapes and that kind of stuff, then I usually put the line work in first and then I put in the color. But for the most part, for the stuff that I do, the abstract stuff, it's always color first for me. So I do want to hear, let me know down below, do you like to use these kinds of markers? Is this something that you like to work on? Do you enjoy using them? Do you enjoy using markers but you just don't want them to go through the page all the time? And you say, hey, this might be a good idea and I'll just try this. Because I really think you should. If you even are considering, are these decent? I would start with a very small pack of the Tombos, like one of their sets, and then go forward from there. I think the watercolor sets are a little bit more expensive to start out with. Maybe they're not anymore. Yeah, I am very out of touch because when I bought these, everything was a lot cheaper than it is today. So I spent less money on the Tombos. I think I spent like $20 for the pack, and they might be a lot more than that now. But don't worry about that because I will have links below for that. We can experience that together. Now everything that I'm talking about is bringing me to a point. So why do people think that if you're a fan of a thing, then you must also know all the other people who do that thing? This is not in reference to anything that has happened here on the channel recently, although there was a rabbit hole to go down. That was a different idea there. That's a different subject there. But I just mean, in general, let me give you an example. Like, almost everyone has heard of Jimi Hendrix. You don't need to know any details or examples of his music, but you know he was a guitar player who wrote music. You know that. The reason is because at that time, if something happened in the culture, everyone reported on it. So everyone knew about it at the same time. You talked about it with your friends at the same time, or your coworkers at the same time, or your parents or children at the same time. Now everything is so fractured. I think I briefly spoke about this in another video, but you know, the way things are now, you may know, like even in your own circle, you may know, okay, yeah, this is a friend of mine who introduced me to this thing, so we all know about it. Wonderful. But that doesn't mean that everyone you run into is going to know about that thing. People are always referring to artists to me as if I know that artist. Let me save you some time. I probably don't. I know a few artists that I've followed through the years, and I know some of the old masters that I've looked up their stuff, and there's some new ones that I've just discovered recently. But just so you know a little about me, if it's trendy, I am nowhere near it. I have always been that way. I've never been that person that just was always on the in crowd. As soon as something happened, they knew about it. I was never that person. I've always done my own thing. I don't really care what everyone else is doing or who they're following or what. For me, don't get me wrong. If someone says something to me, if someone says, hey, I know you like this. Have you checked out this artist? Or have you seen this artist or something? That's great. I love when people do that to me. I love when you guys do that to me because I get to experience, I go looking for it and I say, okay, that's something I can experience. But you have to understand there's no one around me in my life who's into anything else that I'm into. There are a few people, but I don't really talk to them very much. But I've had people say things like, well, if you're into this, then you have to know this person. And my answer is usually, no, I don't. And then their answer is usually, well, then you really aren't into that thing because anyone who's into that thing, this person is the center of that thing and you should know all about that thing. Again, my answer is fine. Then I really don't know about it and I don't care either. I really have a hard time understanding how people can become that flexible and get their own head that far up their own rear end. I've done a couple stretching classes, not even close. Now this happens a lot on the internet too. I don't even know what's going on here. Someone's like on the scene and the next thing you know, everyone says, oh, you know that Flippity Jibs girl or whatever that, I don't know, there's some girl out there now that everybody's talking about. It's some weird word they're using to refer to her, and I have no idea who this person is, nor do I care who this person is, but they're always referencing this person. I don't know the person. If it's something in pop culture, I'm probably unaware of it, and I'm okay with that. I like it that way. You know, people used to give like familiar references based on things that everyone knew, and anyone you talk to would get that idea. They would understand what you're talking about. Now, something comes out of left field, which is a reference that nobody really knows. 45 seconds later, it's like, yeah, that thing, you know. And no, you can't give a reference that no one knows about yet, you donkey. I am way off subject now, but it had to be said. That's enough. I'm done with that whole rant. Here's something else I want to talk to you about, though. I recently went looking for handmade paints on Etsy. I found beautiful, granulating, masterfully combined pigments, earth tones, muted tones, the stuff that I love. I was blown away. I was ready to pounce on that like a wombat on Tasaki snowgrass. Then I looked at the price and what you'd be getting for your money. Now I know, I have talked a ton that I love full pans. That's what I like to get. And then I say, okay, look, I don't like half pans. I don't like them at all. But if the paints are really good, I'll make do with them. I will suffer through it and get the good paints in the half pan. But let me be very clear. If you're even considering using quarter pans, we're probably not going to be friends. If you then also offer me an eighth pan, you have just signed up to be on my enemies list forever. I don't even know what that is. A dot card sized amount? I have no idea what an eighth of a pan is. But some people on Etsy are selling these beautiful paints. An eighth of a pan for like $6. That's insane. I don't understand. Can someone explain this to me? I understand that pigments are expensive. I understand you're going to make these in small handmade batches. But $6 for an eighth of a pan? So if I want to get a pan's worth of paint, I have to spend $48? Now when you call something jade, it better be pure jade. I want you to go dig it out of a mountain by hand yourself, crush it up into little pigment, and put it in with some binder, and it's just pure jade in the paint. That's it. That is absolutely insane. I am now on a hunt for some really unique paint palettes. That's what the Kuretake was about last time. I want to find some unique paint palettes that I can just create something with that is something I would never normally buy, but they're in a set together. They work very nicely together. I can use them and I'll enjoy them. But I'm tired of the split primary thing. I'm tired of it. I don't want any more sets like that. I want to get a set that is very unique. I don't care what's in it. I don't care if it's like all muted colors, or well, those are my favorite, of course. The jewel colors, or they're all like one type of color or this type of, I don't care. I just want to find unique paint. If you have anywhere that you know of that there's some unique paint that doesn't charge you $6 for an eighth of a pan that doesn't even exist, you have to get the pan special. That's why they cost so much. You have to get the pan specially made, because no one in their right mind would produce eighth pans and just sell them to people. There's no one would do that. So if you know any like unique sets, small sets, like maybe 4 paint or 6 paints or something like that, small little sets that maybe, yeah, these are really unique colors, even if it's like a 12 set, whatever. Just something that's like, oh yeah, these aren't normal paints. These aren't the normal way that you do things. I found a couple, but I would like to hear what your opinion is on them. What have you found, and do you enjoy them? Have you used them? Do you enjoy them? I know that there's some handmade paints that look absolutely beautiful. I can't do it. I'm sorry. I listen. You do what you have to do. If you can find people that pay that price and they're all happy with it, wonderful for you. More power to you, but I will not be your customer. I promise. I didn't sit down to this video angry at all. I'm still not angry. I just yell. I talk very loudly. Listen, there's times when I'm talking to people, they think I'm very angry when I'm talking to them. I'm really not. I'm not angry at all. I just talk loud when I'm talking about something, and it's interesting to me, and I feel passionate about it. My voice gradually goes up, and I just start yelling and yelling. I'm not yelling, really. I'm just talking loudly. There's going to be someone, and there has been before, people who comment, man, you get so worked up over this stuff. You shouldn't let this stuff bother you. Really, nothing bothers me. It's just, this is the show. This is why people are tuning in, to hear this. So the other people don't tune in because they don't want to hear it. That's fine too. Listen, you do got to do what you got to do. I got to do what I got to do, and other people got to do what they have to do to listen to what they want to listen to. So most people understand, not only am I not angry, I am having so much fun yelling about things that it's just, I should be paying you. I won't, but I should be. If you have a problem with that, you can talk to these people popping up on the screen. They know exactly what I'm going to do and what I'm going to say and how I'm going to say it, because that's what they're paying me to do. So thumb up the video if you are going to find some eighth pans that cost $6, and then you're going to buy them and in front of the person throw them in the garbage and say, how dare you make me waste my $6 on this piece of garbage. I still can't believe people do that. That's insane. That's absolutely insane. I would never do that to someone, ever. Alright, if you would like to join our community, go to illustrationsbypete.com. You can come in, you can put your own artwork on the site and promote it. You can find some inspiration in the free reference photos. You can just use them however you want in your artwork. You do not need to credit me. Or you can come into the forums and talk to some people and maybe give some advice and maybe find a little bit of information that helps you. So come check us out. Alright, that's about it for me. I'm going to go. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.